Tajudeen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
Okay, so Mele Kyari's removal from office by many books was long overdue. But then, by your own book, was this something that you were looking forward to?
Exactly. It is something that I was looking forward to because we have a situation where the president in this case has done what I consider a complete overhaul of the NNPC. Taking a look at it from the standpoint of the new appointment, into the board of the NNPC. So what it implies is that we have an entirely new team, that are going to implement, strategies that will underpin the performance, the efficiency, and also boost investor confidence in NNPC as a major entity in Nigeria. So, and I think also the former CEO has spent what looks like, 6 years in office. So don't forget that he was previously appointed by the former president Buhari and later reappointed again in 2023 by the current president Tinubu. So what it implies is that he has run that organization for about 6 years. So I'm not surprised at all that they have brought in a new leader, and not just the CEO at this in this regard, but also the entire board of directors.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised at all.
All right. Would you consider the Naira-based negotiation that stalled between NNPCL and Dangote Refinery as the trigger now that we're seeing prices of fuel go up to about 925 Naira, 950 Naira per litre, depending on region? Some other places we're even talking about 1,000 Naira, or maybe it's just a microcosm of the issues that we're seeing in the NNPCL.
The picture is a lot bigger than just taking a look at the Naira for crude agreement between the NNPCL and local refineries in the country. So it goes beyond that as a reason. No doubt that could be one of the reasons, but if we bring to the fore major elements around ensuring a complete turnaround of the NNPC, and also bearing in mind that this is an entity that the government most likely, will be partially or completely divesting from, as soon as possible, possibly this year or sometime next year, and then get it listed on the stock exchange for Nigerians and other strategic investors, not just local investors, but also, foreign investors having some ownership in NNPC at some point. So there is need for a complete change of the board to bring in those that are really experienced and those that have achieved, excellent performance at previous employment, particularly in the oil and gas space. If you take a look at Bayo Ojulari, for instance, he has a very solid experience, coming from Shell. So what that implies is we have, a very competent, CEO that is replacing, Mele Kyari, and of course there will be new perspectives that the new team will be bringing to the table to lift the performance of NNPCL as an organization, and I think more importantly, to prepare the organization for a possible listing on the stock exchange, not just even in Nigeria, but possibly considering a secondary listing on some other exchanges across the world. It is not an impossible thing to happen. So I think it goes beyond the Naira for crude deal.
Okay, Tajudeen, you make it sound as though the NNPCL was incompetently run under the administration or the supervision of Mele Kyari. But then let's look at it from the lens of the Petroleum Industry Act. Aside management, did its operations tick most boxes for you, or it was grossly at variance with the provisions of the Act?
I will not say that the operations were excellent, because under the previous leadership there were promises made around ensuring that the local refineries owned by the government got back on track in terms of being operational. But nearly all of those promises were not kept. And those, to my mind, are major areas of concern for the public. And even if the government did not really behave like they were bothered, the Nigerians were really bothered that we have refineries and they really were not working yet. We have workers that are paid salaries across all of those refineries. So it is a major source of concern, for instance. So that, to my mind, is one of the key elements that suggests to me that it goes beyond Naira for crude. So when you look at the operation of the NNPCL, I believe that we really can do a lot more than what we had under the previous leadership. The second element to my mind is what you currently are seeing around transparency. I think according to the Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, he said that the NNPC is one of the most opaque oil companies in the entire world. So what that implies to my mind, for a man of such caliber to say that, what it implies is that there were some areas that, naturally speaking, NNPC was not performing up to expectations, up to global best practices. So I think those are some of the elements for consideration when we look at the complete change of the board of directors of the organization. And I will look more into all of those elements than consider just a single factor. So there is need for an improvement in transparency. There is need for an improvement in efficiency. There is need also for an improvement in accountability, and also the ability of the NNPC to deliver on promises. All of those elements, were really not coming forward positively under the previous administration and under the previous leadership. And I'm hoping that, with the new leadership, there will be significant positive changes across all of those elements.
Now, earlier on, you highlighted the fact that the possibility of the NNPCL to be listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and probably even beyond the domestic equities market. Rightly so, on March 27th, it was reported that the NNPCL would soon be getting listed. Now, of course, that would be in line with the PIA 2021. What does it mean for the company? What does it mean for Nigeria if NNPCL is able to achieve that status? And was it something that Kyari deliberately foot dragged on since the company's rebranding in 2022?
So I really wouldn't be able to say that, Kyari foot dragged on it because I'm not really sure about it. But what I know for sure is that, that plan is not new. It is something that, had been in the pipeline. And to my mind, it could have been accelerated under the previous leadership. Now that we have, a new sheriff in town, my sense is that, that plan most likely will be accelerated. What does it mean for Nigerians? It means an improvement, an expected improvement in disclosure by the NNPC. It means an expected transparency by the NNPC, because when you go public as a company and you are listed on an exchange, you would have to comply with the rules and regulations of the exchange. You will be subjected to questioning by the investing public. You would have to hold conference calls with investors, possibly once or twice in a year, and there will be a lot of questions that will come that will be asked by the investing public around the financial management of NNPC. Some of the elements that are obscure to us as we speak, all of them will be revealed. Some of the questions that NNPC has kept mute, unanswered in the past, all of those elements, all of those questions will be answered, and everybody would understand where there are weaknesses, and of course there will be suggestions around what even the management can do coming from the investor side. So this is the reason that it is a good thing if the NNPC can be listed. There will be an improvement in accountability, there will be an improvement in transparency, there will be an improvement in disclosure. As we speak, for instance, we are not completely sure as Nigerians how much of our crude oil is being securitized, in terms of the debt that we obtained as a country. But with that kind of a listing arrangement, there is no way that the NNPCL will not have to disclose. They will have to disclose to the investing public. And when we are talking about the listing, we should also take a look at some other entities that are listed. Aramco, for instance, which belongs to the Saudi authority, and some other investors cannot hide under anything. They have to disclose everything because it is now it is an entity that is now listed. It went through an IPO. So the same thing most likely will happen to NNPC when listing materializes. It goes beyond crude oil production. It goes beyond simple efficiency or operational efficiency. It is about achieving public trust, an improvement in the trust that investors can have in the company as NNPC, and also in Nigeria in terms of us being a country as a whole, because NNPC is a big part of Nigeria when we talk about revenue generation for the country, particularly from an export standpoint.
Talking about revenue generation, we understand that this administration, based on their mandate, will need to see how to attract between $30 and $60 billion by the year 2030, improve oil production to about 2 million barrels per day, and of course gas production to between 8 and 10 billion cubic feet by the year 2030. So one would hope that this new arrangement in the NNPCL will drive growth for it and of course for the country. Well, Tajudeen Ibrahim, Director, Research and Strategy at Chapel Hill Denham Securities, thank you so much for your time on the show.